Hello and welcome to Reality TV News Update, where you'll find the most recent news, entertaining moments, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content. What went down in Episode 4? Yeah. Sincerely, the title of this recap sums up this episode of Survivor 50. However, before we get into the whole Zac Brown thing, we need to talk about some gameplay. The last time, we lost Q as the David vs. Goliath trio scooped up Emily and Ozzy to take control, putting Stephanie firmly on the bottom. Emily's proud of herself for building a loyal alliance, even if it means Vaatu is going to struggle in challenges, but she's not totally sold on this group just yet. Christian is supposed to be her ally, not Angelina and Mike's ally. In the meantime, Ozzy teams up with Steph to pursue Angelina, not just to strengthen the tribe, but to isolate Mike, forcing him to count Ozzy as his number one and build a more solid old-school foundation with Cirie and Steph down the road, I'd assume. While Vaatu deals with their fallout, Sela hosts a talent show featuring Rick's awkward juggling, Rizzo imitating Mickey Mouse, and Charlie and Jonathan acting out a fight, which Charlie loses handily. Riz God is declared the winner by Cirie, Dee, and Camilla, the judges. However, Charlie's fictitious crash-out over the results isn't just for show. He's still worked up over Rizzo's jury voting philosophy, and he'll stop at nothing to take Rizzo out of the game ASAP, even if the guy's Mickey Mouse impression is a respectable 10 out of 10. Genevieve braids Coach's hair on Kalo, while Aubrey goes idol hunting as the leper of her tribe, according to Genevieve. A single idol is excellent, but two would be fine. Unfortunately, Genevieve tags along before she can even search anywhere, and Jen sees what's going down plain as day. Now that Aubrey has been caught and looks like a deer in the headlights, it's time to lock in and find that idol yourself to stop her from getting more ammunition. Tragically, it's yet another boomerang idol. Consequently, Genevieve now has two idols she can't even use. Last time, she gave one to Ozzy and spoiled the secret to her alliance, but now she's giving this one to Rizzo and not telling a single soul. She doesn't want Rizzo to be a long-term ally. Rather, she wants him to be someone she can definitely fool in the future due to the trust they have from when they were both Vaatu. Immunity and reward are up for grabs today, and it's the biggest reward of the season, where we get our first in-person celebrity tie-in since Billy couldn't be bothered actually to show up in Fiji. The winner's tribe will receive a fish dinner and tickets to a country concert at the Sanctuary from Zac Brown, formerly of the Zac Brown Band. But only the winning tribe. The losers get a date with Jeff at Tribal Council, while those in second place continue to receive immunity and no prize. Kalo takes the win by a hair, Sela takes a respectable second place, and Vaatu flops so bad they can't even reach the puzzle in time to stand a chance. Now, I could genuinely recap this reward where Zac Brown gives more confessionals than people actually playing the game, but instead I'll just talk about how much we didn't need the celebrity tie-ins this season, because right now that isn't a dead horse. The Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol wasn't even her idea as much as it was Jeff's idea she signed off on, and she still hasn't acknowledged it or the season itself, no matter how many times they mention it on air. I understand that CBS paid a lot to air these songs and wanted to get their money's worth, and now we have this Zac Brown episode in which a good third of it is spent watching him fish, cook, and sing for people who barely have anything to do but sit around and nod. However, watching players attempt to apply two Zac Brown songs to the game of Survivor isn't as funny in practice as it should be, and this segment is just dragged out and bland. I worry that this one won't land, even if Coach glazed yet another ridiculous celebrity reward. It's too much of nothing interesting, and the smallest upsides will be forgotten overnight as we're all left wondering, why did we sit through that again? Additionally, we have no idea what the Jimmy Fallon and Mr. Beast episodes are going to bring to the table later on. While Dee breaks down about losing the reward and Rizzo discovers the idol in his bag on Sela, Vaatu hits their beach and strategizes for the impending tribal. Angelina is the first to be eliminated, but Ozzy is pleased that Mike White makes every effort to keep her as a trustworthy and non-threatening number. The other guys plan while the Jungle Boy tries to beat Zac Brown's spearfishing skills. Mike takes Stephanie aside and tries to get votes for Emily, who is a wolf disguised as a sheep. She's dangerous, but if you give her too much time to play, she'll cut some people's throats, including all of theirs. Christian, however, pushes back when he hears about Mike's plan. He doesn't want either of these women to leave tonight, so he's out to look for a third option. However, Mike knows the best way to push. Emily is Christian's new Gabby, and if Christian might recall, Gabby eventually tried to overthrow him after a season-long partnership and got them both voted out just shy of the finale. Painful memories bring tears to Christian's eyes, and Mike's puppet mastering seems to be working, until Christian sees right through Mike's entire game and decides it's time to send him back to the White Lotus. The Emily and Stephanie vote is all he needs. Ozzy is voting for Angelina. Mike and Angelina are voting for Emily, so it's a 3-to-1 vote in typical Siri fashion. Christian's biggest worry, though, is that Ozzy will blow it up for Mike in search of that White Lotus cameo if he finds out about the plan. And lo and behold, Emily immediately tells Ozzy that Mike is coming for her in front of Christian, putting Christian on high alert as he tries to prevent even more leaks in this rickety ship of a plan. If Emily is so evasive, he might want to stick with his original season alliance and vote her out. Mike is dangerous, but in a competent way that could result in a direct shot landing on Christian a second time. However, Emily is messy and prone to disrupting plans frequently, jeopardizing Christian's efforts. So, either way, he's losing an ally with pros and cons here. Ultimately, he chooses the messy route, blindsiding Mike and majorly burning Angelina and Ozzy in the process. Despite Emily's blunders, she's still in the game as Christian's number one. Still, if Vaatu loses again, which they probably will, we'll see if that holds because we finally get a double elimination next week. Took you long enough to start whittling down the numbers. However, you might need a few more doubles to avoid the endgame being unwatchable rushed nonsense, featuring some celebrity cameo nobody asked for, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm skipping the Zac Brown advertisement on future rewatches. And it's a bummer because the entire episode was fantastic. The drama of Christian choosing between his allies and pulling off a 3-2-1 victory over the man who ended his game the first time, that's so good you'd swear it was scripted TV. But unfortunately, we had to sit through the other half of the episode where absolutely nothing happened unless you're a huge Zac Brown fan. However, it's nice to see Colby having a good time on the show once more. As someone who couldn't tell you anything about him prior to this episode, including the genre of music he sings, it's almost fun to see Coach glazing yet another ridiculous celebrity reward for easy airtime. I suppose for a cheap CBS reality show, some of the spearfishing shots were breathtaking, but when Zac Brown gets more screen time than Siri Fields, that is unacceptable. No. And thankfully, next week picks up the pace and delivers something a bit less of a snooze. Hopefully. I might just take the night off if Jeff says it's the Jimmy Fallon double boot twist.
The fourth episode of Survivor 50 opened with a palpable shift in energy, one that could only be described as controlled chaos. After last week's simmering tensions, Episode 4, aptly dubbed The Zac Brown Show, put Zac Brown squarely in the spotlight, whether his tribe mates liked it or not. From the moment the sun rose over camp, it was clear that Zac had no intention of playing a quiet game. The tribe had already begun to fall apart as a result of his social strategy, which combined boldness, unpredictability, and charm. Some people saw him as a brave leader, while others saw him as a moving target. At the Vula camp, the aftermath of the previous tribal council lingered heavily. Alliances were no longer whispers in the dark. They were out in the open, fragile and shifting. Zac leaned into it, sensing the unpredictability. He started pulling people apart one at a time, sowing doubt in nearly everyone's minds. In a confessional, Zac said with a confident smile, "Trust is overrated out here. It's all about timing, and I always arrive on time." Jenna, his closest ally, appeared both impressed and cautious. She appreciated Zac's willingness to move, but she wondered if his aggressive play might make them look like too much of a target. Marcus and Leela conversed in secret about the necessity of clipping Zac's wings before he could fully control the tribe. Things were much less dramatic but no less strategic at the Koro tribe. The challenges and camp life had settled the tribe into a routine, but cracks were beginning to appear beneath the surface. Ben switched between alliances while carefully gathering information without committing too strongly to any one group, forming a close partnership with Olivia and Drew. Back at Vula, the reward challenge brought a temporary pause to the scheming. A strenuous obstacle course put the tribe's physical endurance and ability to solve puzzles to the test. Zack immediately assumed command, barking instructions and encouraging his teammates to move more quickly. His leadership paid off, initially. Zack's intensity was largely to blame for Vula's physical advance, but when it came time for the puzzle, his domineering approach began to backfire. He resisted other people's suggestions and insisted on his own strategy, which ultimately slowed the team down. Koro seized the opportunity and pulled off a comeback victory, earning a much-needed morale boost along with fresh fruit and fishing gear. Zack and Vula were particularly hard hit by the loss. Frustrations boiled over once more at camp. Marcus directly confronted Zack and criticized him for not listening to the challenge. Marcus said, "You're not the only one out here, man. Either we win as a group or we lose because of a single person." Zack did not relent. Instead, he doubled down. He replied, "If you think you can do better, step up. Also, do not complain." The confrontation sent shockwaves through the tribe. Lines were drawn more clearly than ever, those aligned with Zack and those determined to take him down. Zack went into overdrive when he sensed danger. He approached Leela with a bold proposition: flip on Marcus and join forces to create a new majority alliance. Leela listened carefully but did not say anything. She admitted her true thoughts in her confessional. She stated, "Zack thinks he's running the game. However, there are times when the loudest player is the easiest to fool." At Vula, the tension was at an all-time high as the immunity challenge was getting closer. The challenge itself was a test of balance, coordination, and patience, qualities that Zack ironically struggled to demonstrate under pressure. Vula failed once more after a strong start, giving Koro another victory. Vula's fate was sealed by the loss. Someone would go home and they would go back to tribal council. Back at camp, the scramble began immediately. Zack portrayed Marcus both as a physical threat and a social liability in his plan to oust him from office. Meanwhile, Marcus rallied his own group, arguing that Zack's unpredictable gameplay was too dangerous to keep around. Jenna found herself caught in the middle. As Zack's closest ally, she knew that sticking with him could be risky, but flipping on him could destroy her game if the move failed. She acknowledged, "I feel like I'm standing on a tightrope. I'm gone with one bad step." The tribe was getting ready for tribal council as the sun set. The atmosphere was electric. Whispers filled the air, and no one seemed entirely sure where the votes would land. At tribal council, the discussion quickly turned to trust, leadership, and adaptability. Zack, as expected, dominated the conversation. He presented himself as a player who was willing to do whatever it took to win, by speaking with self-assurance about taking risks and daring moves. Marcus countered with a more measured perspective, emphasizing the importance of teamwork and stability. "Big moves are great, but not if they blow up your own game," Marcus said. When it came time to vote, the tension was palpable. One by one, the castaways cast their ballots, each decision carrying significant weight. As the votes were read, it became clear just how divided the tribe was. First vote, Marcus. Second vote, Zack. Marcus voted third. Fourth vote, Zack. Marcus voted fifth. The final vote revealed a narrow but decisive outcome. Marcus was eliminated, becoming the fourth person voted out of Survivor 50. Zack exhaled deeply, a mix of relief and triumph washing over him. He had made it through, but only just. Marcus left behind a tribe that was more fractured than ever before as he extinguished his torch and left the game. Despite Zack's victory in the battle, the conflict was far from over. Back at camp, the fallout was immediate. Trust was shattered, alliances were exposed, and Zack's position, while still intact, was more precarious than ever. "The Zack Brown Show isn't over," Zack said in a closing confessional. "If anything, it's just getting started." Episode 4 delivered exactly what fans crave: high-stakes strategy, explosive confrontations, and a power struggle that could reshape the game moving forward. But history has shown that in Survivor, the mastermind of today can quickly become the target of tomorrow. And if Zack isn't careful, his spotlight might just turn into a bullseye.